on that, if you would, go to the podium, state your name, and, make a comment.
I don't normally like to jump in front of people, but I'm babysitting my grandson, so he's downstairs. I'm gonna just be very brief, and I may have a different viewpoint than what y'all will hear from others, but I wanted to throw this out here, and I wanna state something that I've stated many times, I've heard stated, and I do know it to be the truth within a couple of points on a percentage that, the property taxes are 73%, or at one time were 73% of every tax dollar goes to the school system, and it is not controlled by anything y'all do. Y'all control the 27%-ish. Sheriff's office, like every other county department, we have to operate. We are facing growing pains. I'm not getting into the politics of people coming here or not coming here, or who should be able to come here and who shouldn't be able to come here. The bottom line is people are coming here. And even if they don't come here to live, which they are, they're coming here to visit, and it's daily. It's not just on Apple Festival weekends. In the last 10 years, I have one of my staff members, one of his duties is tracking statistics. In the last 10 years, the call volume, just called 911 or calls for service, not the extra stuff. The extra stuff is complaints, and they may come in by telephone to my office, to me, to a deputy. They come in many various ways. The excess stuff is traffic, loud music, traffic concerns, speeders through neighborhoods, left lane drivers, people driving erratic on the roads, property encroachments daily. My neighbors put his mailbox on those type of complaints daily. VIN verifications, multiple a day. Suspicious vehicles, extra patrol requests. I'm going out of town on vacation. I need you to patrol mine. Property happens thousands of times probably a year. Reckless drivers, shots fired that are nonsense. We've got the nonsense shots fired. If anybody has our app, you just saw we had a non-nonsense this week, and another one about 2 or 3 weeks ago that was not nonsense. It was basically an active shooter right into a neighborhood, shooting the place up. So those type calls, those are calls for service. That's what I'm talking about. Drug trafficking complaints, child molestations. We did a felony stop, takedown of a child molestation suspect yesterday. Unfortunately, but it beat the alternative because he was very dangerous, supposedly. We did it at the intersection of First Avenue and River Street at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. That was more sensible than going to his house. Agitated people, mental health issues daily, countless. Couldn't even begin to scratch the surface of those. We have one this week, actually yesterday, agitated mental health person threatening the courthouse. He wanted to know what he could do to go to jail. Agitated. We have those things daily. Armed burglaries. Those type calls are calls for service. In the last 10 years, they've gone up 44%. 44%. In the last 2 years, they've gone up 2%. In 2015, we had 8,230 calls for service. We had 31,500 logged patrols. Patrolling riding through a church parking lot at midnight. Patrolling Highway 52 East. Yada, yada, yada. In the year 2024, we had 14,671 calls for service, and we only had 23,000 zone patrols. So when the calls go up, the patrolling goes down. The reactive goes up, the preventative goes down. We've got to be able to keep up with that. I said all that to say this. I'm obviously speaking as a taxpayer. I'm against any tax increase. As a department head, an elected official, and people have told me you're ridiculous to be an elected official, never talk about a tax increase. But I have to be real, because I go sit in those budget meetings with y'all and hear where the money goes and know that I can't get what I need. We have a lot. We've been able to do a lot. The budget year for next year, my goal is, we have 6 patrolmen per shift, covering 38,114 activities last year. Those are going up. We've got half a year stats for this year, and they are going up. They're not going down. We look for those to be about 40,000 this year. We've got to increase our patrol. And I will be hitting y'all with a budget request this year for 4 more patrolmen, 1 per shift, and another detective. So I wanted to make that comment, and I'm sorry to jump in front of other people. I should have came today. I couldn't. But I wanted to make that statement in conjunction with y'all making your decision on what you want to do. So, thank you.
Thank you, Sheriff.
Thank you, Sheriff.
Okay, anybody else?
Hi, Kimberly Reckless, a concerned Gilmer County citizen. I'll go ahead and say something now to buy some time for others in our community to gather their thoughts and courage to get up here to say what's on their minds, and I hope they will. This morning, during this morning session, one of the things I said was one of the consequences of uncontrolled growth and the policies of a board that have failed to rein in development results in increased population growth and, in turn, demand on services. We heard this morning about the need for a new ambulance. There's the cost there. Of course, I think, Commissioner, you said there were 14 service human beings that are attached to that ambulance that need to be compensated for their time as well. And now we're hearing from the sheriff that he's going to need 6 more patrol per shift and 1 more detective. So, ching, the dollars are building up. This is what I've been crying to this commission board about for going on 6 years. I said, it's coming. If you do not change your policies in the direction of your decision making, we are going to see bear out in the cost of increase of government and the demand and size for government. That too, as we all know, has happened. We're seeing, I just heard 6 patrolmen get hired, and I haven't even figured out how to pay them yet. And I, again, am not opposed to protecting our community. I said it this morning. No rational human being is saying we don't want to be protected and we don't want a ride to the hospital should we need one. What we're saying is, what I'm saying, I'll speak for myself, is the too much, too fast has created a stress on every area of this county. One of the most significant that we all experience every day, and I know I just was riding over here with my mom this evening, just to get out of a road onto 282 is not only, taking sometimes 5 minutes just to get out onto 282, but it's also dangerous, and probably no end in sight to get a turn lane in, because it's a state highway, and that's something that you all never have to attend to, because I'm just gonna have to wait for the state DOT to deal with that issue. But these are consequences, right? That traffic on 282 is a real world consequence, for your policies, your decision making, that have allowed for hundreds more vehicles to be coming from High River down that road at high rates of speed. And I happen to know that that's an area that ambulances frequent, and the sheriff's department is constantly going down because of the same risk. And every day, even last month, there was a, zoning variance. They want to put another commercial business on 282. And you take that, and that's going to be more traffic and more risk of a need for patrolmen and more need for ambulances. And I don't think I need to give you all a lesson here in how the snowball effect works. But this is exactly what I've been talking about for a number of years. It's not because I wanted to close a door behind me when I moved here. It's because I've been there. It's because I watched it happen in multiple communities that I have moved from. I've been escaping them. Many of us have slowly made this commute away further and further away from the city, and we've seen it time and time and time again. And I attempted to warn this board and the Planning and Zoning Board what was coming. I've been there. I've seen it. I wasn't being a chicken little. And now those chickens have come home to roost. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, anybody else?
Doug Lorraine, Cherry Log, Thornton County resident. Attended this morning's session. A couple of the takeaways I had was the interaction up here earlier, Charlie. This bigger budget and this need for a tax increase is necessitated by population growth. You also said that the development that goes hand in hand with that population growth brings more expenses to Gulf County than it does revenues. And that's where we are. We've got growth. And growth is not paying its own way. The cost of growth is falling on the backs of every single resident in Gilmore County. Earlier today, I became aware of a somewhat regular survey done by an outfit called Smart Asset. And they do something, they rank wealth growth. And they've been doing this for apparently 10 years, which combines investment income, median home values, household income across the US. But they've narrowed down Georgia. They've given us 10 counties in Georgia. Forsyth is number 1. Oconee, number 2. Greene, number 3. Cherokee, 4. Pike, Morgan. And number 7 is Gilmore County. We're a high growth county. And actually the same survey in 2023 had us at number 9. So we are outpacing and we are gaining at nosebleed levels. Yet, you're telling us you don't have the means to keep up with that growth. You need to raise our taxes. Yet, this commission decided to up the density in Gilmore County with a series of zoning changes, definition changes. You're bringing in more people. You're putting on the green light. Come on up. And we've got, I haven't updated the figures. I know last year we had 11,000 unbuilt subdivision lots. We've opened up a lot more subdivisions since then. Now we've got higher density apartments in the This morning, Mrs. Ferguson said, oh, it's only 128 units. That's what's in the pipeline now, between LJ and Gilmer. But we only changed the density requirements, upping it to 10 units per acre in April, May. What's gonna happen when this becomes part of the larger corporate plans for developers now that we have done it? There's at least 80 acres, I think I've counted up, within LJ and unincorporated Gilmer County that are being marketed as potential apartment developments. That's 800 apartments. That's a lot more than 128. Let's not pretend we're gonna cap it at 128, like was implied this morning, in my estimation. It's time to think seriously. Charlie made a good point this morning. We've got a $4 million debt we've got to meet. Maybe we should put off some of this higher density stuff and some of this high growth stuff for 4 years until it's paid off. Then we'd have the means to actually deal with this realistically without putting the burden on every single Gilbert County business owner that owns property and every single homeowner. We'll have a little bit of cushion there. We don't have that now. But this commission has opened the door for higher growth. So this little small increase this year may just be the first of many and larger increases over the next year, necessitated by lack of foresight and just a hunger for growth that is happening, and it's noted in national surveys. Thank you.
I've lived here for over 20 years.
What's your name?
And,
What's your name?
oh, Ann Hofstetter, resident of Gilmer County. So my husband and I escaped from Atlanta to come up here and live in a rural community. And, you know, I haven't kept up with a lot of the stuff going on. I found a lot of this millage rate and all that very confusing. But what I do know and what I hear is that a lot of you are on the side of developers coming into Gilmer County and raising taxes as a result. And I know that once the people of Gilmer County realize what's going on there, there'll be a tune to play on election day.
Thank you. Okay, anybody else?
I'm Mark Benasia, LJ resident, Gilmer County resident. I've not spoken here at any of these meetings, although I wish I should have quite some time ago. I sit at home watching this rapid development, and Doug, you're spot on. Spot on. I often think I wish I were a fly on the wall at perhaps these backroom meetings, dinners, lunches, what have you, and just to understand what goes through the minds of the folks that decide, let's keep developing. What do you want? What do you want from that? What are the gains? We can't see any as citizens. We drive 515 and look at these big, beautiful, gray towers for electrical wiring. Oh, they're attractive, really attractive in the country to power future development. There's other theories, oh, it's this and that, it's all a bunch of bunk. It's for future development. You know, the law enforcement has to stand here and go, we're having a tough time with all this development, more calls, we're having a tough time. budget-wise? How do we handle this? He made a point that y'all have 27% of the budget decisions. Perhaps you have to be a little bit more wise with that 27%. Because they're important. A new subdivision's not important. It's not important at all. Fancy condos, to support tourism, none of that's important. That officer's important, and so are his people. They protect us each and every day. So when you're making decisions with your portion of the budget, perhaps you pay a little bit more attention to actual needs, not housing development. Doesn't help anybody.
Shook hands here on Judge Order. That's the assessment that happened this year. My tax amount on the properties I own went up $2,000. I'm all for ambulances. The only problem is I live on the county road and it won't make it to my house. I finally figured out this whole thing about subdivisions. It seems to me, and my guess is, that 65% of the land parcels in this county are not serviced by county maintenance or repair. So all these new subdivisions that are coming in here are paying the same tax I am, but they're also paying tax on their roads, and we're not having to fix their roads. I guess I'm gonna be real surprised when this new assessment, when this new tax comes out, as to what that's gonna increase my tax amount. At some point in time, I think we need to kind of rein some of this in. Thank you.
I might need just 3 minutes. I'm Walter W. Polk. I live on the last dirt road in Gilmer County, northeast Gilmer County. Growth. I love growth. It needs to pay its own way. I'm 83 years old, and I'll never see my road paved. I'm probably the last road on the list. I paid into taxes what I have. Growth must be supported by the people coming here. And they should not pass that burden off by way of the council or any other means on to taxpayers. All roads lead to a winery. I love to go to wineries. I help support them and I want them to grow. But came here, we had 4 wineries. I haven't taken the count lately, but there's too many for me to make around and hit all of them. But that's humor, but we can support the wineries, but let them support themselves. And any more coming in need to pay their way in the form of pavement roads to these wineries, instead of the taxpayers having to pay for brand new striping and roads to wineries to Yukon Road, Boardtown, and other new developments.
Subdivisions, I don't need any more subdivisions in northwest or northeast Gilmer County, we're happy. And I don't need any more development. If I needed development, I'd go to Cherokee or some other county, and this moving from Cherokee, check the traffic coming from Atlanta. It takes so much time to get to northeast Georgia. They come in about 3 o'clock on Friday afternoons from their urban dwellings with their two-wheel vehicle drives, expecting to drive like they're in Atlanta, but that's another subject. Development, cut it back. We don't need any more development. We don't need any more subdivisions. I have enough relatives that can come here and help support Gilmer County by visiting only. Thank you. How many minutes was
Okay, anybody else? Okay, if there is nobody else, I've got some comments I want to make. Apologies to those of you who were here this morning. You're gonna get to hear it all again. And it's gonna probably be pretty much the same. I've heard it said and hear it said that this is a thankless job here. That's not entirely true, because, you know, every now and then we'll have somebody who'll call up and say, thank you, appreciate what you do. But that is the exception. For the most part, when I get a phone call and I say hello, I know it's gonna be somebody that's upset about something and unhappy. And I'm to blame. Most of these people don't know what really goes on in making decisions, because they don't come to the meetings, they don't watch y'all's videos. They just hear that there's gonna be a tax increase. They don't know why. And if you click on social media, they'll say, you know, nobody's told us what this is for. We wanna know why this is having to happen. Same time, they will attack our ethics and competence up here. You know, I never realized what a big crook I was until I started reading about me on Facebook. I have to assume that I'm not very successful at it if everybody in the world knows that I'm crooked. But that's the environment, you know, if you're a politician, you're crooked. And I'll be the first to say, I personally believe most of them are. But it's not an automatic thing. I spent about 40 years, first at AT&T and then Hewlett-Packard, earning a reputation as someone that was straightforward, honest, would not lie to you, would accept responsibility when I messed up. Then I got elected to this position, and overnight, I'm corrupt and crooked. Can't say that I don't understand that too much. I kind of felt pretty much the same way until I got on this side of the fence and realized that's not the way things are all the time. One of the worst things I think that's ever happened to this country is social media. People, I don't know, it's like they lose their sense of responsibility and honesty and fairness when they get on social media, and, you know, they just spit it all out there. I'm somebody who's always enjoyed a frank discussion. I don't like to try to figure out where somebody stands on some topic. So, you know, I'm not opposed to having somebody just be very blunt with me. But I do want them, when they're gonna be very blunt with me, to have done their homework and they know what they're talking about. And on social media, that generally speaking is not the case. Excuse me. I wanna talk about just a couple of things that are going around right now. Particularly over the last few days, I've had my share of being blasted for this or that. And let me say, anything I'm saying here today, this is me. I didn't clear this with the other commissioners, and I'm speaking for myself. One of the questions that was asked several times, many times, on social media, when was the last time we had an audit of county finances? We need an audit. We need to have that. This is ridiculous. When was the last time that we actually had a comprehensive audit of county finances? So I'd like to answer that. Last time we had a comprehensive audit of county finances was 2025. We have a comprehensive audit of county finances every single year by an independent accounting firm. So does every one of the other 158 counties in the state. It's a state law. You have to be audited. Well, if you're certain size matters. The results of these audits are public. The auditor comes into our meeting and gives us an overview in a public meeting of where we are. Anyone who would like a copy of the audit, welcome to it. Just ask and we'll give you one. So we're not trying to hide anything. We're audited, and the audit is there for anybody who wants to see it. One of the other things that I hear is, or read, I guess I should say, if we paid higher wages, we wouldn't lose firemen. You know, there's a problem right now. We've got like 16 open slots for firemen. And the assumption is that it's all because we're not paying, it's a fair assumption. You know, we're trying to match Cherokee County, Fannin, Pickens. We can kind of keep up with Fannin and Pickens, except maybe on the retirement plan. No way we're gonna match Cherokee. I don't criticize the folks that have left to go for more money. If I was a fireman and I could get an extra $3 or $4 an hour somewhere, I'd probably do the same thing. We have increased fireman pay, and we've increased deputy pay, everybody's pay, quite a bit over the last 10 years. And at one point, we were on par with our neighboring counties, but apparently we just haven't increased as quickly as they have, and haven't kept up with that. What I would like to point out, though, I get phone calls that say I pay X amount of dollar in taxes, and it usually starts out with I pay my taxes and ends up with so paid my road. But I'll have people tell me I paid, just to pick a figure, $4,000 in taxes. What they don't understand, and what they've never, I guess, really realized is, okay, you do. County got maybe $800 of that, the county government. The rest of that goes to the school board. They get 3/4 of every tax dollar that you pay. Now, I'm being critical of them. It takes a lot of money to run a school board. But when people are calculating, I pay $4,000 worth of taxes, so you need to pay my road, or you need to do this, or whatever. You know, they really need to keep in mind that, yeah, I pay $4,000 in taxes, but you only got maybe $800 of that. It's a perception thing. People don't realize it. Another thing that I read is they didn't even say what the money was gonna be used for. Actually, we did, but happy to repeat it. The primary usage of the additional money that this will bring in is going to be to add a fifth ambulance to what we have running now. And yeah, it's a population thing. We have 4 ambulances on the road every day. In the past, what we would do is we'd try to buy 1 ambulance a year in a rotation, because we put many mega miles on these ambulances. By the time they're 4 years old, they're about wore out. So what we do is we buy an ambulance. We'll take the oldest ambulance of the 4, and we'll set it off to the side somewhere, and we'll make an emergency spare in case one of the others break down. And we'll add that new ambulance into the 4 ambulance rotation. That doesn't work anymore. We need a 5th ambulance. Now we have agreements with neighboring counties. If we have 4 ambulances that are out on the road and that 5th call comes in, you know, we can ask Fannin, would they catch the call, or we can ask Pickens or Dawson County. And they do it, but it takes them a whole lot longer, of course, to get here. And they're not in the business of providing this nonstop for Gilmer County. So we need to add that 5th ambulance. We've got one ordered and it's funded. When it comes in, what we need to do, rather than making that 4th ambulance and setting one back, is we need to just put it in, keep all the 4 we've got going, and say this is ambulance number 5. Now, when I presented that notion to the fire department, they kind of hit me up with another reality. Okay, so you bought a $270,000 ambulance. That's real good, but it's gonna cost you $1 million a year to put that ambulance on the road. That seems a little high to me. Why is it gonna cost me $1 million a year to put a 5th ambulance on the road? Because you're gonna have to hire 14 people full-time, 24/7, 365, and it can't just be that for this, to run this ambulance, and it can't just be your typical day-to-day person. It's gonna have to be paramedics and, that sort of thing, so they're gonna be more expensive people. That ambulance is not gonna run itself. You're gonna have to have these. It's about $1 million a year. We still need it. We had to cut $5 million from the budget last year of what was requested and supposedly needed. But we do balance the budget every year, and we couldn't do it. And we cut $5 million out of that budget. We'll probably wind up having to cut a whole bunch this year too, but we need that 5th ambulance, and that's what it's for. One of the things that's not taken into account, I think, is even with if you go to the state of Georgia Revenue Department's website, there's a section in there where you can pull up the millage rate for every one of the 159 counties in the state of Georgia. Now, they don't do it for you, it'd be a little work, but if you go through and add up the millage rate for these counties compared to what we pay here in Gilmer County, what you'll find right now is that we're the 6th lowest county of the 159 counties in the state of Georgia. I hear a lot of yelling, screaming, gnashing of teeth about you're money hungry, you're greedy. All they want is just more money, more money. We are the 6th lowest in the state of Georgia. One of the comments on social media was, you know, somebody needs to come in and do a comparison between Gilmer County and our surrounding counties. Just, you know, let's just do that comparison. Somebody, fortunately, behind them came in and said, oh, no, you don't want that. We did that a number of years ago. We didn't come out too well. It wound up costing us money. If it were to happen today, we wouldn't come out too well either, because with the exception of Fannin County, which has the lowest tax rate in the state, they're number 1. With that one exception, we're the lowest you're gonna find in our area. Even with this increase. Now, let's talk about the increase a little bit. This is a 1/2 mil increase. 1/2 mil, but it's not really 1/2 mil. Right now, your taxes for the government is split into maintenance and operations tax rate, millage rate, and a bond millage rate. That, bond millage rate is 3/4 of a mil. Currently, the maintenance and operation millage rate, if I recall, is 5.239 mils. So you're paying, a total between them of like 6.329, something like that. When we raised, or proposed to raise the millage rate for maintenance and operations by 1/2 mil, at the same time, we reduced the millage rate for the bond rate by 1/4 mil. So the net result is not 1/2 mil, not increase in the millage rate. The net result is a 1/4 mil increase in the millage rate. Now, just to put a little perspective on that, if you live in a $700,000 house, assessed at $700,000, by the time you calculate the additional 1/2 mil on the maintenance and operation and the reduction in the bond millage rate, you're gonna pay about an extra, what was it?
$75.
$75. Not knocking $75 to $75, I understand that, but that's only $700,000 house, that's what we're talking about. Along with that, the comments were, they're raising our taxes twice. They're raising the millage rate, and they're proposing a new sales tax. One of the problems I have with social media is that people don't do their homework. They go in, they make these posts, and they just be blunt about it, they don't know what they're talking about. We are not proposing a new sales tax. We have currently 1% SPLOST, special purpose local option sales tax. We've had that for years and years, since way before my time. The purpose of that is to pay our bond debt. I'm sure you all know that we have a massive amount of debt. In 2005 and 2006, there were $59 million worth of bonds issued for construction at that time, for 5-point-some odd percent over 25 years. Now, over 25 years, it's just like a home mortgage, it basically doubles. You borrow $59 billion, but you pay back $57, $58 billion by the time you spread it all out. That SPLOST is to cover those payments, $4 million, a little over $4 million a year. And we're in about year 20 now. We've got another 5 years or so, just a bit over 5 years left on it. So that's what the primary purpose of that SPLOST is. Now, there's a little left over after that, and we use that to pay roads and so forth. But without that SPLOST, and it expires, that's why we're doing it again. We want to renew it because they automatically expire in 6 years. Without that SPLOST, if you think this tax increase on property tax is rough, we ain't seen nothing yet. So, yeah, we're recommending that the SPLOST be renewed so that, the payment, $4 million a year on that debt gets paid by the SPLOST. Now, most of that is paid by the visitors to the county because we have a lot of tourism. And I hear people say all the time, I don't want to hear that most of the visitors pay it or whatever, because we shop here too. Well, yes, you do. But right now, the latest figures that I saw, and they're several years old from the state of Georgia, indicated that well over 60% of SPLOST revenues came from visitors to the individual counties. And you don't want to, you shop here too, and you're paying that 1%, but you're not paying what that 60-some% that other people are paying, that if they weren't coming and paying it, you'd have to. So it's not a bad thing, and in fact, it's gonna be a very necessary thing. But this is not a new sales tax that we're looking to put on people. The modification on that, I suppose, is they're taxing us twice because they're raising the millage rate, and my assessment just went way up. My assessment is so high, and it's costing me all this money. That's probably true on the school board portion of your taxes. Gilmer County has what's called a floating tax exemption. This started in 2006. Now, in 2006, I had a house here with homestead exemption. You have to have a homestead exemption to qualify for it. So, when I did my homestead exemption that year, I was given a base rate, based on the assessment of my house in 2006. That meant that that's what I was gonna be paying taxes on going forward. Now, the millage rate could go up and down, and that would cost me more or less. But as the assessment goes up, that floating exemption goes up. So if your floating exemption is $120,000, let's say, your assessment goes up so high that next year you'll be paying taxes on $150,000. Then that floating exemption just increases from 120 to 150. So yes, your assessment's gone up, but so did your exemption. So an increased assessment is not costing you money. There's two ways that you can get caught up in that. If you sell your house, like I had my house in 2023, I had my house since '06, still had that same base. And if I sold my house, whoever bought it that base would be reset, the value of the 2023 value. The other thing is, if you do a major renovation, it'll get reset. I found out the hard way that if you have a house fire and you have to move out for a couple of years and have it all rebuilt, well, guess what? That's a major renovation. And I'm not even more exempt from that than anybody else. So my 2006 floating exemption, based on the value of my home in 2006, has just become the value of my home in 2025. It happens. And I only mention it just to demonstrate this is how this thing works. It's complicated, a lot of people don't understand it. House Bill 581 recently came out where the state of Georgia indicated that every county in the state was going to have to implement this floating exemption. Ours is actually better than the floating exemption that they want to mandate for us. The floating exemption itself is the same, with two differences. First of all, their floating exemption uses a base rate of whatever your value was in '24. The other thing is, that exemption is allowed to increase, or decrease, I guess would be a better term, by a certain percentage every year. This year it would be 3%. So if that $150,000 you're paying taxes on, and you've got a $120,000 exemption, rather than the exemption raising up to 150 and taking all of that additional assessment away from you, the state allows a 3% reduction in that. So now you get all of it except 3%. You still pay an extra 3% on that. So ours is actually better. There were a lot of negatives to that, but that was the big positive for everybody. The state of Georgia, it has a certain limitation, and that is that they don't legislate just for Gilmer County. Whatever they do has to be for every single county in the state, 159 counties. They have to have a one size fits all, and one size does not. There's a lot of counties in the state of Georgia that will benefit from HB 581. They don't have floating exemptions. But Gilmer's not one of them. We had an opportunity to opt out, and we took it, and you wouldn't think that we had shot the puppy dog. I mean, people, we're better than what they're trying to force down our throats. So yeah, we opted out. As I said, it's a complicated subject, and a lot of people are not clear on it. A lot of people just haven't taken the time to try to figure it out. We opted out, so we're the demons. We're the devil. I guess one of the things that bothered me the most about that, probably bothered my wife a lot more than it bothered me. I've got to where I don't much go to Facebook anymore. I got tired of reading how corrupt and crooked I was. But my wife still goes, every now and then she'll say, okay, look, you gotta see this one. And I do, and I get all bent out of shape, but not nearly as bent out of shape as she gets. So then she starts fussing at me. You gotta be, don't you run again? This is ridiculous. You don't have to put up with this. So now I'm getting it from all sides. It's difficult. And it's not just me, it's everybody over here has to put up with it. But the thing was, Charlie lied to us. He lied to us about HB 581 because he wanted to opt out. So he lied to us, and they opted out. And now we don't get that floating exemption at that mandate. Well, you know, you don't get theirs, but you've already got one that's better. But people don't educate themselves. One of the things I hear is it's a 12% increase year over year. Okay, yeah. It may be a 12% increase. We do have, though, kind of a mitigating idea here. You know, I mentioned before that probably 3/4 of the taxes that you all pay, it goes to the Board of Education and not to the Gilmer County government. Unless you're over 65 years old. In Gilmer County, if you're over 65 years old, you don't pay school tax. All you pay is the government portion of that. That means you're automatically getting a 3/4% decrease in the amount of taxes that you pay. We're one of either 2 or 3 counties in the state that get a full exemption over age 65. You'd think that would be a good thing. I like it. I'm sure there's a number of you in here that also do. But the thing about that, then I hear, we need to do something about this over 65 exemption. We have got to get rid of that. This is ridiculous. Next call I get is, don't you think about touching that over 65 exemption. No, I mean, we will. If you do that, you can forget ever getting reelected. People actually still think that's a threat to me. So, you know, we've got that conflict. And then it's never enough, never enough. I've already talked about that. I won't hit on that again, but it's frustrating because nobody up here is getting any of that money ourselves. I know that, you know, the general consensus is we're greedy and we're pocketing it all. But that's just not the case, and we're not getting it, and therefore we really don't, you know, we don't have anything personally to gain from any of this. I want to say too, and I know I'm venting and I apologize, but it just feels so good. Everybody has their thing. For some people, their thing is roads. Other people, their thing is recreation, or animal shelter, or construction, building construction, but everybody has their thing. About 80% of the calls that I get are from people wanting their road paved. So that's probably most of the people, their thing is roads. But then I get a call from somebody who wants something in recreation. Now, we had about around 300 people that made a really big, loud statement, a couple of years ago that we wanted a new sports complex. Other counties can have it, we need to have it. At the time, we thought, okay, well, we're looking at probably $3 or $4 million. Turns out we were looking more like 12 to $15 million. And we told them, okay, we're fine with building a sports complex, but we're gonna do it the same way we built a swimming pool. We're not gonna go in debt for it. In every year's budget, we'll set some money aside for that sports complex. We'll get enough money, we'll build it. That's what we did with the swimming pool. I had to make a really difficult decision to close that swimming pool a few years ago because I felt that it was dangerous. I told people at the time, I'm gonna make sure that we somehow build you a new swimming pool. But I'm a politician and I lie, so nobody believed it. But we do have a nice swimming pool now. We did it the old fashioned way. We stuck money away in every budget, every year, put it aside until we had enough money to build a swimming pool. We're currently doing that for recreation. But what I hear now is if you just stop spending so much money on recreation, you could pave my road. Probably true. Then the next call is if you just stop spending so much money on roads, you could build that sports complex. Again, probably true. We can't make everybody happy. We can't make anybody completely happy. We just have to try to make everybody as happy as we possibly can make them. And sometimes that involves a little bit more money, and it's a very unpopular thing. People don't realize that there's a thing called the Taxpayers' Bill of Rights. Some of you may be familiar with it. I've been preaching it for a few years now. The state of Georgia says that we can't bring in more money this year in property tax than what we brought in last year. If we do, no matter what the millage rate is, if we do, it's a tax increase. So every year the state calculates when we get the tax digest in, they said, okay, with this tax digest, here's how much you're gonna have to lower your millage rate to make sure you don't bring in as much anymore this year than you brought in last year, within certain parameters. It's called the rollback rate, and we've typically taken that rollback rate. I think year before last, we decided to leave the millage rate where it was, not an increase, just leave it where it was. But to the state of Georgia, that was a tax increase. So we had to advertise, we're raising your taxes. This year, we actually are raising your taxes by 1/4 mil. And I've explained why. And yeah, population growth is a big part of that. The people that are yelling about, it's your fault because you let people move in here. We can't stop people from moving in. Now, we can put some controls on it, and we have put some controls on some of it. Not everybody that's asked for a zoning variance to build something has been approved for it. What people don't realize is that we can't just automatically say no, we have to be able to back it up. We turned down a winery tasting room a few years ago. People took us to court. They won. The court says you will let them build that winery tasting room. Our insurance, when we get sued because we made a zoning decision, somebody sued us for it and we lost, that's not covered. They will not cover us for making an incorrect zoning decision. So we're pretty gun shy now about saying no to people. We feel like we gotta be able to really back that up. Here's the other thing. If you're a farmer who has 150 acres of land and you've been struggling, all your life you've just been able to eke out a living, and you're getting older and it's time for you to kind of hang it up, and some developer comes along and says, I'll give you $3 million for your 150 acres of land. The solution to the problem in Gilmer County of developers coming in with their big development is don't sell them the land. Now, having said that, I gotta tell you, if I'm that farmer and somebody says, I'll give you $3 million for your 150 acres, hand me the check. And I think that's basically what's happening. A lot of it too is farmers that wouldn't let go of that land for anything in the world. And they hang on to it until they finally pass on. Kids don't care anything about farming. So that land gets sold for the $3 million or whatever it is. People are paying outrageous prices for this. So it's not as simple as tell them no. We can't tell people you can't live here. We can't tell people you can't build here without a good reason to back it up. The best reason is we don't have the infrastructure for it, and we're trying to work on that. I do want to say one final thing. I've been critical about the debt that we're carrying. That debt is not one that we can default on. If we don't pay that $4 million every year, the state of Georgia comes in and says, we're taking over. Everybody's property taxes that get paid will come to us now. We'll pay that $4 million first, and if there's anything left over out of that property tax, then the county can run on that. And we'll run it. They'll come in and take over. This is not something that we can just say, okay, we'll default, it'll hurt our credit, we'll walk away. These people gonna get their money, whether the state takes it from y'all, or whether we get it from y'all, or whether we get it from SPLOST. So don't think of SPLOST as a bad thing. SPLOST is your best friend right now, believe me. And what I want to say, I've been critical about that. I'm not critical of the commission that did all of that. This was done in 2005, 2006. The building went up through to about 2008, I think. It was, now I disagreed with the number of fire stations that were built at that time. But I didn't have any say in it, so. I did disagree with that. That was a relatively minor part of all this. We built a courthouse, a jail, library, an animal shelter, you name it, parking lots. These things had to be done. The commission that was in place at that time found themselves in a situation where, through the years, the property needed to be maintained, repaired, replaced. The county didn't have the money to do it. See, the courthouse had been condemned already. You had to build a new courthouse. The jail was right on the verge of being condemned, would have been shortly. They found themselves in a situation where we tried to make everything last a little bit longer for so many years, that now everything's hitting us all at once. It's all coming to roost at one time. And now, none of this we can make last any longer. So they had to go into debt and replace it all. What I want to do is to make sure that the planning is such that we now replace, repair, whatever as it needs to be, so that we never again find ourselves in a situation where everything has gotten to the point that now it all has to be replaced at one time. An impossible situation without going into massive debt, which is what we've already done. We've got 5 more years, we'll be out of that. Ideally, we have learned our lesson and we just do this thing as we go forward. That's one of the things that this purchase of the new building shortly, or just recently, has been about. I had to move people out of the Progress Road building. We got the UGA folks there. It was no longer a suitable place to house them. We needed to have somewhere different for a warming shelter. The Civic Center, we had to boot them out at 7 a.m. because there were commitments there. 7 a.m. It's still really cold out there. So we needed that. Civil Air Patrol, we had to not let them use the second floor of the airport because we needed to move EMA there. They were in the Progress Road building. We had to get them out. We had to do what I call dropping the dominoes. We had to have something up here where I could move something in here, then I could move something over here and move something over there. That building was it. So the health department is gonna be moving, middle of this month from where they are now into the new building. The UGA folks that are in the old Progress Road building will be moving into what's currently the health department building. The Civil Air Patrol and the warming center will be moving into what is currently the patrol headquarters. So we're making all these things happen, and it's things that we had to make happen. So that's just part of the overall planning to make sure we don't get in this situation again. With that, I've taken more time than all the rest of you combined, and I apologize. I've been whining, but I feel so much better, and I appreciate it. Thank you. At this point, anybody else who wants to make any final comments, or we'll close the meeting?
tolerate me one last time. Not rolling back to the rollback rate, which you mentioned is in the taxpayer bill of rights, is a tax increase.
Right.
Okay, just gonna make that clear.
According to the state of Georgia.
Well, that's
According
the
to
law of the
Charlie's,
state, right,
according
that's
to
what
the state
we,
of Georgia, it is.
right. So, we've established that that is, the rollback rate is the rate which you would charge us, the county would assess us, based upon a floating exemption rate. And that amount of that bill could represent to us a rollback of, let me get my number right, 5.178 mils. That's the rollback rate. That's what the state has determined that Gilmer County should, the millage rate Gilmer County should charge us to not increase its revenues.
Don't forget the 3/4 mil for the bond.
Right. And then there is the, last year we had a 5.50 millage rate, so a rollback, we can agree, would be beneath the 5.50, if, assuming that the valuation.
Pretty sure we took the rollback last year, didn't we?
No, it was, you kept the same 5.5, did you know?
No, that was year before.
Okay, so maybe last year you rolled it back to, 5.5, right?
5.3.
Okay, thank you. So you rolled it back to 5.329.
From 5.5 to 5.2.
Okay. And I guess that's the number that when we got our estimates, that's the same number, you kind of just carried that number over from last year.
That's part of HB
estimate.
581.
Mhm.
They said that you must still, you have two options. You could calculate what the millage rate's going to be and put that for your estimated taxes. Nobody knows what that's gonna be when those things are sent out. Or you can assume that the millage rate will stay the same and take it and say, this is gonna be your estimated taxes, which is the way we've always done it. But it's, it gives you some vague idea, but nobody knows what the millage rate's gonna be. That's just something that we're required to put on there.
Right. So, you did say that, maybe $75 might be what a $700,000 home might recognize in a tax increase based upon, this millage rate increase. So not only are we not going to hold the millage rate, we're not also not going to roll back millage rate. We're going to increase millage rate, and that is where the 12.5% comes from.
We're increasing it by 1/4 mil, yes.
Yeah, so you're saying 1/4 mil, only a 1/4 mil, but that represents 12.5%.
I
So,
haven't calculated, but okay.
yeah, okay, it's actually maybe even more than 12.5%, but I'm being,
Right.
I'm trying to give a round number. So that's a real number, right? We could be enjoying $75 less in our tax bill,
Absolutely,
but instead we're seeing $75 more in our tax bill.
absolutely.
That
We have
in my
an
book
artifact, not be able to
is-
get an ambulance, too.
That in my book is $150. But not only are you not getting the $75 decrease, you're also paying an additional $75. So while I sit there and I listen,
I don't see the math on it.
Okay,
Go ahead.
so,
I'm not gonna-
so I know that's wife math, because that's how we do all of our explanations to our husband when we go back and explain how we saved a lot of money for the household. But, it is, we are not saving the $75 that we could be saving if you roll back millage, is that correct?
You're exactly right.
Okay. Not only are we not saving
Only
that, but we're going to pay an
$700,000.
additional, on a 700, right, that's the theory we're working on. So not only are we not getting the $75, so my husband is saying to me now, you're not getting the $75, okay, I'm not gonna get the $75 discount. Okay, but you're gonna need to give me additional $75. Wait a minute, that's $150. It is $150. I just want you to think about that for a minute. Because,
Okay, Sandy, I'm gonna ask for clarification on this. The rate that we're talking about is the rate that is over what the rollback rate would be, is that correct?
The rollback rate was calculated at 5.17.
No, I'm not talking about the millage rate now, I'm talking about that $75.
No, the difference is the calculation between the current millage rate
Okay.
and the proposed.
You are exactly right,
Right,
so.
right, I am correct, it's $150, so I'm pretty good at math, I used to be in banking. But I will say this, you make a lot of good points, your perspective is very compelling. However, the real world application and experience of citizens of Gilmer County is what it is, right? And nobody said that we don't need we do not want a new ambulance. What we're saying is, you budgeted for the ambulance last year, that got paid for at last year's budget.
Right.
But we also need to pay for the same ambulance in the coming year.
No.
No, we also need to pay for
The
that,
ambulance
plus the
doesn't
14
run itself.
supporting staff members that we need to run
The
that
ambulance
ambulance.
doesn't run itself, so
Right.
that's where the real money comes in.
Right. These numbers, if you give one-sided story, it doesn't look so bad to be raising millage. But when you give the whole picture, it tells a different story to the citizens. And I don't recall ever having called this county and asked for anything from you all. And I've never called to complain about a dog barking, or the road needing anything. I never complained about anything. I mean, most citizens are happy to just take care of ourselves. We're not a bunch of, we're pretty self-sufficient folks here. We don't need a whole heck of a lot. But it's not fair to put on some people's gripes and complaints to you on all of us. Because some people harass you, because some people aren't happy, because some people want low-income apartments, because some people want a better animal shelter, because some people want a warming center, and because some people think that we need a multi-million-dollar Parks and Rec center, and because some people how much of my money belongs to those some people? At what point does what's in my pocketbook do you all not give to those some people? Because that's what's happening. You're not putting it out of your pocket, you're taking it out of mine. Thank you.
Let me say that those people are bringing things to our attention, and we are making a determination as to whether that's something that really needs to be done or not, so.
My name's Mary Collins, I live in Gilmer County. I just have a question, like with all the new stuff, I know you said it doesn't have to do with the population going up, but in 2 years from now, are you gonna need another ambulance? Is you're gonna, is that gonna just keep going every year or two that you need to add that much more to our taxes?
I certainly hope not, but, I can't tell you what's gonna happen 2 years from now.
Right, I'm just wondering about a trend. Thanks.
I just have a good comment, sorry. Actually, a question. Doug Rank, Gilmer County resident. When does this proposed splost referendum gonna go to a vote?
We still got to determine that, but we're hoping in this November's election.
I'm just thinking, you made a good case for it. If the terms of this splost are just merely a replication, a continuation of the one that's there, but you're still gonna have to convince the voters of Gilmer County to vote for it. And how much less likely are they to approve a splost, knowing they've just received a property tax increase? I think you should think strategically, think long and hard on this. I heard a comment from somebody today, well, if they're gonna raise my property taxes, I am in no way gonna vote for that splost. Please consider this, think strategically.
I understand what you're saying. The people are going to have to understand that a no vote for that SPLOST is probably a yes vote for a 3 or 4 mil increase.
I understand that too, but let's think strategically, let's build a team with the community and not just keep bumping heads with each other. Thank you, Sean, I appreciate it.
Okay, anybody else? adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right,